Hello, my name is Hannah and welcome to another reading vlog. I am filming in my kitchen because we have the AC on and it is just way too loud. It takes up too much of the sound in the video, so I'm trying to film in here. The book I'm going to start reading this evening is called Fuckface by Leah Hampton. And did I pick this book just because of the title? Of course I did. And am I doing this reading vlog just because of the title? Of course I am. So the only thing I really remember about this book at the moment is that it takes place in like Appalachia, but this is a collection of short stories. I'm not sure how many there are. Oh, and Torti has arrived. So we have a dozen stories in here, all by the same author, and I have never I have never read from this author before. That whole sentence got really scrambled in my brain. But since this is short stories, how I want to try and do this, she has a very itchy face, is that I will read a story and then come check in with you. I will tell you the title, probably read the first sentence, tell you how many pages it is, and kind of just give like a gist of the story, like one sentence explanation of what the story is, and then my thoughts and rating on that story. I'm not going to do any spoilers or anything like that, but that's something I've kind of wanted to do with like a short story book, so I want to kind of try that format out, but I really don't know what I'm getting into with this, so I don't even know if I'm going to post this reading vlog in the end. But gosh, it's really glare. There's just a big ass frog on the front, and the first story in here is called Fuckface, so I guess I'll find out pretty quickly why it is titled that. But this is the description. It says, the stories in this remarkable collection, some comedic, some tragic, many both at once, examine the interdependence between rural denizens and their environment. A girl desperate for a way out of her small town finds support in an unlikely place. A park ranger realizes that the dark side of the job, the all too frequent discovery of dead bodies, has taken its toll on her. Haunted by his past and his future, a tech sergeant reluctantly spends a night with his estranged parents before being deployed to Afghanistan. A woman takes her husband's research partner on a day trip to her favorite place on Earth, Dollywood, and briefly imagines a different life. In the vein of Bonnie Jo Campbell and Lee Smith, Leah Hampton writes, she is very invasive right now, writes poignantly and honestly about a legendary place that's rapidly changing, often in surprising ways. She takes us deep inside the lives of the women and men of Appalachia while navigating the realities of modern life with wit, bite, and heart. So this seems like it could be a pretty bizarre book. It has quite a different variety of stories and such, so like I'm not even exactly sure what genre this is supposed to be besides short stories. Look at her, she's being so cute. Why are you being in such a cute mood, huh? You are shedding everywhere though. Yeah, you already have fur in the book. So this is what I'll start reading tonight. I usually read in bed, but I'm probably going to try to start this a little bit earlier, obviously, so that it's still light out when I try to come back and check in with you. So I think I'll read the first sentence of the first story now. It's 14 pages long. It's the title, Fuckface, and it says, nothing will ever fix what's broken in this town, but it would be nice if they'd at least get the dead bear out of the parking lot at Food Country. So that's where I'll be starting, and I will come back in a few hours after I start reading. I just finished reading the first short story, and it's also time to get started on dinner. So I'm going to be doing that while I tell you about that first story. I'm going to be making chipolatas with maple syrup and a side of green beans and corn, so just something really quick and simple. So this story follows this girl named Pretty. She's 20 and she works at the local grocery store. It's like a really, really small town where like it's really touristy in the summer and like dead in the off season kind of thing. And she's friends with like people in the store and stuff, and as you can tell from the first sentence, they have a dead bear problem. Like behind the grocery store there's this dead like baby bear. It's not like tiny baby, it's like a year-old baby kind of thing, so not quite full size, but no one will take care of it. And they're talking about how it's because there is no money for anyone to take care of it, and so it's just been there for like a week. But then one of the people from the store is going to be like moving to a bigger city, getting out of there. So there's discussions based around like escaping your hometown kind of thing. And where the title Fuckface comes from, that's actually the name of, well, not the name, but what they call the manager of the store there. Apparently he is like always in his office with the door shut and stuff, and never like comes out. Like, say she's been working there for years and has only seen him on the floor twice kind of thing. So his nickname is Fuckface. He doesn't care if they call him that or anything like that. So that is where the title of the story and the book comes from. I thought that was kind of funny. But obviously, since his nickname is literally the title of the story, he has a little bit to do with how it ends. And that's really about it. Like, it was only 14 pages long, but it's a lot to do with Pretty's feelings and kind of how you can feel trapped if you live in a really tiny town like that. But I would give the short story 3 out of 5, I think. Like, it was okay. There obviously wasn't much going on, but there wasn't anything inherently wrong with it either. Like, I understood some of the discussions that it was having, and I do think the characters were pretty relatable, and so I feel like that's going to be a theme in this, since it's the same author that is going to be writing each story. So that's all for story 1. I have my camera balanced on the tripod on my knees, so it's a bit awkward. Also, the AC is going in the background. You can definitely hear that. But I just finished the second story in the book. It's called Boomer, which obviously what you thought is exactly what first popped into my head with the title, but it does mean that for sure, but it's also talking about a squirrel. There's something called a boomer squirrel, and that is in this story too. But this is definitely like a 2-for-1, and I'm also noticing these stories, they don't really have a proper conclusion, they just kind of end. This one actually really made me anxious because it's about wildfires, and we've had a lot of wildfires here in France. There was even one close to Paris last week, and there's been one going on for like 2 weeks now in southwest France. But I'm gonna read the first sentence of this real quick before I really get into it. So it says, by the time May took the frog lamps, Larry was losing Hollow Rock. And that sentence means nothing at first. And now, since I just finished it, that sentence means everything. Also, this one is 13 pages, but pretty much this one is about a man named Larry who is fighting these wildfires. They're all through like Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia. There's tons of different crews and stuff he's working with. And his wife is May, and she is fucking stupid. They're apparently divorcing, but not like paper-wise. Like, it's pretty much they're just like, yeah, we don't really go together, and so he's basically like, you can leave, that's fine. But she like backtracks everything and is just like slowly taking all of his stuff as he's fighting these fires and is gone for just like hours at a time. Also, while that's happening, the election is also going on, and it really feels like it's referencing the 2016 election just from the comments. They don't name any names, and obviously that's done on purpose, but it's pretty clear who they're talking about. So that's where like the other boomer aspect comes in, and I give this one 5 stars. I thought the parallels were interesting. The anxiety I felt when they were talking about the fires was like, oh my gosh, that really got to me. And just how he's coming home to this freaking woman who is just like, can I have this? And like wouldn't even let him in the house when he came back smelling of smoke and stuff, when he's just gone for days at a time, is just like, whew, it got to me a bit. But it's nice to have a 5-star story in here so early. And I think I am gonna read the next one tonight. I'm trying to film before we have to put the AC on, but instead there's a ton of construction noise outside, so I apologize if that starts up even louder while I'm filming this. So I did read another short story last night, but with the AC on and how late it was and everything, I just didn't feel like doing the clip them. So I ended up reading Wireless, which is the longest story so far at 26 pages. I'm definitely noticing that each of these stories seems to be a snapshot of the character's trauma, which is why there really aren't conclusions, and that is definitely the case in this one. Like, nothing is resolved. There is not a satisfying conclusion at all, and it is really sad because of the content here. And honky. So this one, I would definitely say a content warning for infidelity and sexual assaults. The details aren't like gone into or anything like that. Like, it's not described. It is just mentioned and talked about that it happened, and it's implied that it happened to one of the main characters. But mainly this story follows Margaret. She has a sister named Julie who pretty much grew up like perfect,
and was like a model and everything. And so she always kind of felt like she was in her sister's shadow. She goes to her high school reunion and meets up with an old friend there named Robbie. I guess they were pretty close in high school, but she didn't keep up with any of her friends from school after graduation. So most of the story is them just catching up, reconnecting. Cats are fighting. I assume it's called wireless because most of their communication is through their phone. They use like text messaging apps and stuff to communicate, because for Margaret especially, it's easier for her to say her feelings because she's not having to say them out loud. It's just like writing them down kind of thing. So this one is pretty sad, but it's also a bit odd, and the first sentence I had to read twice because I was just like, wait, what? Is like doing a double take kind of thing. And so I'll read the first sentence now. The Holiday Inn Express on Richland Skyway seemed like as good a place as any for Margaret Price to maybe, possibly, stick her finger up a guy's butthole. Yeah, that's literally the first sentence of this. And obviously it adds context and stuff later on, but it's just like, what? So that's been the weirdest opening sentence so far, obviously. The next story is called Parkway, and I keep flipping through this book when I should have stayed where I was. But this one's only 13 pages, so back to the lower counts. And I'll read the first sentence right now because why not? Oh, okay, it's a really short one. We find bodies all the time. If that doesn't hook you, I don't know what will. But also, one thing I kept forgetting to say about this book is when I looked it up, it is just contemporary stories. Based on the description, I actually thought it might kind of jump around in time a bit, but it does not. I am enjoying it so far, even though it does feel kind of random, and the not having conclusions is usually a thing I don't really enjoy. Also, that last short story, I would probably give 3 to 3.5 stars. I'm not sure when I'm going to read more today, but I will definitely be checking in at some point. Just finished Parkway, and Ori's eating in the background, so you might hear him a bit. And it's another 5-star read, actually. This one follows a woman named Priscilla, but everyone calls her P, like the vegetable, PEA. And pretty much she's a park ranger, and she's in training in the very beginning of this. And the entire story is pretty much just about every time she's encountered a dead body on the job and how that kind of has affected her and her work. And it's actually really interesting and sad. And there's a paragraph in here that I think is my favorite thing in this book so far, and I'm going to read that out loud. It's on page 55 in this book. It says, "People use parks for selfish reasons," he said. He pulled into a scenic overlook and cut off his truck. Slowly, he let go of the steering wheel and cast his hands toward the narrow valley below us. 400 miles of parkway through some of the prettiest country there is, and everybody brings their shit. He leaned forward and shook his head. There's more murders, starved dogs, more toddlers slipping off cliffs, more sadness than anybody knows. He glanced at me, then at the road behind us, and shrugged. We clean it up. Then maybe we give a tour, hand out some brochures. Almost nobody knows where they're going. Mount an order even when there isn't any. That's all. So yeah, I feel like that's a pretty impactful paragraph, actually. That's probably my favorite story I've read so far, but I mean, that was only what, like the 4th or 5th one, so I can't really say much there. But the next one is called Twitchell. Like, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a name or what the heck that is. But the first sentence is, for the first half of Margie Piper's pottery lecture at the Arts Council picnic, Iva Jo Hokut thought the Russian girl was asking for a tampon. I'm kind of loving these first sentences because I feel like all of them kind of grab you and make you kind of go, what? Or what the fuck? I think they really work for the short story format. So that'll be the next one I read, and I think it's 23 pages, so another slightly longer one. Everything is gone. I do have laundry going in the kitchen, so I do apologize if you can hear that in the background a bit. So yesterday before we went to our friend's house, and of course there's gonna be loud noise outside, but yesterday before we went to our friend's house, I did read another of the short stories in here. I already forgot. I think it's called Twitchell, something like that. And that name, obviously when I talked about it before, I was like, I don't know what this means. It's in reference to a chemical plant in the town that this story takes place in. And this was another one that was kind of close to home because... And cats are fighting. They go nyom. But this one is about a woman named Eva, and it starts out where she's just like all of a sudden has this really heavy bleeding, and she thought she had already gone through like menopause kind of thing, and so she was really confused and didn't know what was going on. And content warning, there's a lot of talk of cancer in here, and so she like goes to the doctor and stuff, and it's about kind of like her journey and finding out what is wrong. While that's happening, people around her are talking about cancer, talking about how high the cancer rate is where they live, how everything is because of this chemical company called Twitchell, and there was like a settlement involving them and all of that kind of stuff. And the reason it hits kind of close to home is where I grew up, we have the Cook nuclear plant, and that has always been like a huge presence in that area. And I will never forget when I was going to the local community college, it was required to take a health class. And in that health class, at one point, the teacher brought up cancer rates in like the tri-state area kind of thing, like Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. And right where we were in our area, it was like lit up like a Christmas tree with how many people have gotten cancer. And so obviously it was kind of implied that it is linked to Cook Nuclear, but there isn't like any hard evidence of that or whatever. But it's something that really stuck with me. Like that memory just plays perfectly in my brain. And that's also when I learned that every household in that area has a right to have these pills, to where if anything ever happened with the nuclear reactor, you would take the pills, and it's supposed to help with radiation or whatever, which if that thing fucking explodes, that's gonna be the least of your worries. And my grandma later confirmed the pill thing and stuff. So that was something where that just kind of blew my mind, because I was like 18 and learning this information, and it was like, oh my gosh. But the nuclear plant, we had like a local urban legend around it, like it was a big deal. And so that was the Twitchell for me in real life. And so seeing kind of the same discussions in this story was like, oh, this feels very, very familiar. So this story, I believe, is 4 stars for me. It is another one of those where you don't have a proper conclusion. You don't know the answer in the end. So if that's something that really bothers you in stories, I definitely wouldn't recommend this collection. But I feel like it does so well at just doing these like snapshots of these situations and the discussions around them. I find it quite interesting, especially since obviously I can relate to some of these stories, it seems. So the next one is called Mingo. So another one where I don't know what that is referencing yet. So the first sentence of this one is, I bought a $3 film camera outside Matawan the morning after Howard's daddy crashed the box. And the box is capitalized. So I assume I'm gonna find out what that is. I'm assuming maybe it's a car or something at this point, but we'll see. And I need to see how many pages long it is. 23 pages, so another of a little bit longer one. So that'll be the next one that I read today. Finally a day where I can enjoy the terrace and have it not be extremely hot. We haven't had to put the AC on all day, so that is good. Haven't had that for a while, but I just finished reading another short story in here, the one called Mingo, and apparently that's Mingo County in Virginia, I think it was. They went through several states in this one, but this follows a woman named Tina. Her and her husband, Howard, I think it is. Gosh, I'm having a really hard time remembering everyone's names in these stories, but I think the husband is named Howard, and then Howard's dad is named Hassel, which is kind of funny because that's pretty much what he is. But like, the dad keeps crashing his car, and his kids just keep giving him his keys back, and this time it was bad enough where he's getting his driver's license taken away and stuff. So they go visit him in the hospital, and this whole story is pretty much their stay in the hospital there, and the interactions with Hassel and the physical therapist. God, I am struggling for words today. So this one I really didn't connect as much with at all. I just really didn't feel like I was engaged at all while I was reading it. So I think it's only a 2-star for me this time, which is the lowest rated one so far for me in here. I assume that the commentary here was on aging, that was part of it with Hassel and everything, but also Tina kept talking about how where she grew up was like mining towns and stuff, and how they pretty much just took everything from the earth and it's just like a shell of what it was. And so since they're going to Kentucky to see the hospital where Howard's dad is, she was talking about how like lush this feels, how like fertile this area feels, how different it feels from where she grew up. So that's kind of the secondary thing that it tied in. But the next one is called Frogs, so I'm hoping it's not bad things happening to frogs, but we will see. And the first sentence is, a decade ago, summer was full of their mating calls. So yeah, I'm going to assume that this is going to be about frogs' population declining, most likely. And let's see, the page count is... oh, this one's only 16 pages. Ooh, the one after this one is called Devil. I'm looking forward to that. But this evening we are going to meet up with our friends Joel and Christy at a creperie, actually, because this is their last night in Paris before moving to Dublin officially. Tomorrow morning is their flight, so we are going to go have dinner with them. I guess it's the first place, the first creperie they ate when they first moved here, so we're going to meet up with them in about like an hour and a half. So I'm not sure if I will read any more tonight, but if I do, you'll see me in a bit either way. So it is way later in the day. It's a bit after 10 actually, and I have hair in my mouth. Ugh. We actually just got home from having dinner with our friends who are moving to Dublin. Their flight leaves at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and they have to leave their apartment at 3 a.m. So I'm just like, holy shit, good luck with all of that. They have animals they have to move to, so it's pretty complicated. But it was nice to be able to see them one last time. But before we left, I was able to finish another story. I just didn't have enough time to talk about it. So this was the one called Frogs, and I was right about it having to do with the population of the frogs, like not being as high as it's supposed to be. But this one was interesting in that it had to do with this kind of small town complex. Two of the characters, well, the two main characters I should say, they were twins. They're 37 years old. It's a girl and a guy, and they basically are going on this like little nature walk with this naturalist, and there's like kids and families and stuff there, and basically along the way they're learning about frogs because that's the subject of this particular walk. And I think it's like once every week or once every other week they do something like this, like not the characters in particular, but like the naturalist and who they work for like puts this on kind of thing. They pretty much have like this complex because they're like, we're probably the only two locals here, and the chick especially was like getting angry with the guy for knowing more about the area than she does, even though they were born there. And it was, hi Ori, kind of an interesting point of view in how like jealous it seemed this woman was getting that this guy who didn't grow up there but has lived there for quite a few years knows so much more about this area that she's been in her entire life. So that one I would probably give a 4, and definitely has some of the more unlikable main characters. But now the next one is the one called Devil, and there's actually a quote under the title of this, and it says, "Being of these hills, I cannot pass beyond." And apparently someone named James Still said that. But the first sentence, this is definitely the lamest one so far. It's, "Tech Sergeant Boggs was beaten." That could be at a game. It could be like people were beating him kind of thing. Like that could mean several different things. And this one is, always need to check the front for the pages. This one is 17 pages long, and this puts me at 5 left to read actually. So not too many more. I don't think I'm going to read any more tonight, or at least I'm not going to check in anymore tonight. Not sure if I'll read any more. I'm actually thinking of playing some Divinity right now, and I'm quite tired, so I might hold off on that. But I just wanted to be able to get this in here before having to go to bed. Ori has decided to sleep in the bathtub. Look at him. It's all fur. Oh, hi. Oh, big stretch. Oh,
Big cattle stretch. Are you in the bathtub?
So it is just about 9 p.m. here, so I just read the first and probably only short story I'll read for today, and it's a 4.5, if not a 5-star. Wow, where the title of this one comes from is just like, damn. So this one pretty much follows a guy who is in the Air Force, and he works on planes, things like that, and he has to go tell his parents that he is being shipped out to Afghanistan because this is taking place right after the Twin Tower attacks. So obviously a lot of tension going on there. And this story has to deal with having very, very religious parents. And oh my gosh, it's another one that kind of hits close to home because my mom's side of the family is very religious, but my parents themselves weren't. But I also am friends with people whose parents are like the parents in this. So it was just like, and gosh, the way they talk and everything, like, I just can't stand it. It drives me up a fucking wall. So this was one that really hits hard, I think, and that a lot of people would definitely be able to relate with, because, I mean, this is taking place in Kentucky, like, that's the Bible Belt. So this one was definitely a sad one. So the next one is called Queen. The first sentence is, in her memory, the hive sat in the side yard, echoing family rituals and routines. So are we talking about bees? Oh, Queen, because Queen Bee. Okay, so this one's probably going to be about bees. That makes sense. And then the page length of this one is... Oh, wow, this one's only 9 pages. I think that's might be... Oh, no, I think the one after that is only 8. So, wow, yeah, okay. Some of these last ones seem to be only a few pages long. So that's going to be really quick. So I will probably actually end up finishing this tomorrow. I definitely could have finished it today if I wanted to, but I just really wasn't in the mood to read until this evening. But yeah, definitely wanting to finishing this up. What? Definitely want to finish this up soon because I want to return it to the library. I just woke up from a nap and I feel extremely weird, so if I look a bit out of it, that is why. But before I slept, I read 2 more of the, I almost said chapters, of the stories. What is Torti hunting? In here, the first one was Queen, which was obviously about bees, and that one was only 6 pages long, I believe, and I think is only a 2-star. It's pretty much about this woman who goes back to her childhood home because the hive of bees that her mom had brought there, like way back when, was dying, and her stepdad couldn't figure out why. Her mom had passed years before, so it had just been like the stepdad living there, and he doesn't know about bees or anything. And this one was pretty low-key. There really wasn't any like drama. The only sad aspect is that the mom had died of cancer, kind of thing. So that's why that one was just a 2. I wasn't really too sure what was going on there. I'm sure with like the bees dying and them not knowing why, that was probably part of like the message of that story, but still, there just really wasn't anything to connect with much there. And then the next one, though, was still just a few pages, but oh my gosh, had a much bigger impact. That one was called Meat and is only 8 pages, and this was the first sentence. The receiving line snaked through the chapel, its center aisle a corpus of grief, clutched purses, dark jackets. And I just realized the connection now to, oh, that's why I like this first sentence thing, because if I've already read it, I can kind of like come back to realize a little bit, because it starts out at a funeral, but that's not what this is about, but it kind of is what it is at the same time. That's interesting. But basically this girl, she is doing like her college degree and everything, and it brought her to an internship that was essentially like a pig farm, kind of, but not really. Like there were barns of pigs, but it's also where like they slaughtered them and they were raising them and stuff. But it was talking about, yeah, content warning, not very good things with animals happen. And it was talking about like the conditions they're kept in, and there was a fire and stuff. And so this kind of goes through what she experienced, the outcome of that fire and things that happened with that. Oh my gosh, like it really got to me. Like this one definitely has to be a 5-star because just the impact in 8 pages is like, holy shit. I mean, this one's probably my favorite story out of the entire book, and there's only 2 left, so I doubt it's going to be topped. but I haven't read the book Tender is the Flesh, but I feel like this gives those kind of vibes just based on what I've heard about it. Yeah, like this one really just came out of nowhere and surprised me. So like I just said, there are only 2 stories left. The next one is called Saint, and this is another double take sentence here. It says, "Your brother is going to die in 12 years. Okay. And let's see how long this one is. This is another 8-pager one. And then the very last one, since the acknowledgements it says are on page 189, I think it is 21 pages. So I only have about like 30 pages left. So I will probably come back when I am completely finished with this book. Finally finished, and I am holding it completely backwards. And there goes Ori. I knew he was gonna go in my chair. Please don't scratch. Thank you. He can be there as long as he doesn't freaking scratch it. But I feel like it took me way too long to read a book that isn't even 200 pages. But I feel like that's how it always goes for me with short stories, especially. But, so the second to last one, what was it even about? Oh my god, my brain just went blank. I rated it a 4, I think. So like, why have I instantly forgotten? I need to see the title to remember. Saint, oh yeah, okay. So this one is written, like I had said that first sentence where it says like your brother, that's how the entire story is written. So this one is completely different from how every other short story in here is written, but pretty much it's just like snapshots of time in this person's life. Like you can see on the pages wherever there's stars, that's like a, not necessarily a time skip because it goes forward and back, but each section will be like, it's this time, it's this many days, or this many years, or this many months until the brother dies, kind of thing. And it will just be something that happened with the brother and the sister, but that's pretty much how that is set up. And then this last chapter I really wish was put someplace different in the book, like more towards the beginning, I think, but it's called Sparkle because it's all about Dollywood. And the first sentence here is, inside the cotton candy pink ticket booth, Mavis, that's what her name tag said, shifted her ample cardiganed breasts off the counter and looked out the customer window to see if there was anybody behind us. Because the 2 main characters are at the ticket booth to Dollywood. And this whole thing takes place in the park, and they get to see Dolly Parton and everything. But pretty much it's about this woman who is in love with her husband's colleague at university. And they've known each other, actually I don't remember how long they've known each other, but the guy was working at the university for 4 years before he moved to a more prestigious one, and pretty much he's visiting because he's doing a project with her husband, and so she invites him to go to Dollywood with her, and she's in love with him, he's not in love with her, kind of thing. And so it's kind of like the awkwardness of that dynamic as they're going through the park. And so that's how this ends, and I only gave that one a 2.5. It was just kind of and so that's why I'm a little disappointed in how this ends, and I wish that would have been more toward the beginning because I feel like that would have been more of a good opener. And maybe like the title one, the fuck face, should have been how this ended, even though that one's not the greatest either. But I definitely feel like I rated more of the stories higher at the end, but also I feel like they were more varied because I feel like I either gave them a 5 or like a 2 at the end. So this was definitely an interesting collection to read, like just kind of the snapshots of these characters' lives were done quite well, I think. The length of them was nice, like these were definitely short stories. Like I definitely enjoy smaller collections like this because when it gets to be like 300 pages plus, even though they're short stories, it still feels like a bit of a slog to get through. So I will definitely be checking out what other things this author has written, or if she is writing anything new or whatever, because this really surprised me. After I averaged all the ratings, it came out to 3.7, which obviously on Goodreads is going to be a 4. I'm going to set this down because it keeps glare. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it to people that just enjoy contemporary short stories in general. These don't really have to do with any other genres exactly. It's definitely contemporary, and you don't have to be from that like Appalachia area area to understand the messages here, because like I grew up in Michigan, that's not Appalachia, and I had no problem with this book. But people that are from there, like if my friends who are from Tennessee read this, who I know have been to Dollywood and stuff, like they would probably enjoy it even more than I do, because they would know exactly what this book is talking about. So yeah, that's all. I definitely think it was worth reading, and I'm glad I picked it up. But thank you for hanging out with me, even though it took me way too long to read that. And until next time, bonne journée and au revoir.